Well, we have heard stories of concern from across the community. The Sandbox Veterans collect donations from drivers who are stopped at intersections around Fort Wayne. They say the money goes to help Iraq and Afghanistan veterans with PTSD. 15 Finds Out has focused its series of special reports on that group. And tonight, Adam Widener takes a closer look at how our investigation and your response are making a difference as we continue our series, Patriots or Panhandlers.
State leaders say since our story last week, they've seen our footage and heard from a handful of you who have filed formal complaints against the Sandbox Veterans. And because of that, I can report tonight the Attorney General's office has now launched its own investigation into the Sandbox Veterans. City leaders call their tactics illegal.
Groups and individuals should not be soliciting for money for motorists in vehicles.
Drivers call them aggressive.
He's weaving in and out of traffic. People are just kind of like giving him the look like, what are you doing here? You're invading my privacy.
And while they may collect your money publicly,
no comment. You guys, no.
The Sandbox Veterans are far less willing to outline where your donations are going.
Still got about 5 seconds to get off the property before we have an issue.
After watching our special reports, a handful of your complaints made it here to the Attorney General's office in Indianapolis. Leaders here will now be trying to contact the Sandbox Veterans as the first step in its own investigation.
See what they have to say about the complaints and get as much information as we can.
Abby Kuzma is the Director of Consumer Protection for Indiana's Attorney General's office.
We would look for waste of assets. We'd look for fraudulent sorts of activity. If they're being deceptive in their practices in terms of solicitation or other things that they might be doing, we could look into that as well.
The Sandbox Veterans have made it difficult to find their financial records. The group is not recognized as a nonprofit or 501c3 with the federal government, but they are listed as a nonprofit with the state, something that's much easier to get and has fewer regulations. A 501c3's financial records are public, whereas to be a nonprofit with the state, a group doesn't even have to provide financial records.
We cannot get typically very much information other than the articles and bylaws about an organization that's filed with the state if they're not a 501c3. And of course you don't have to be a 501c3. There's no requirement that you apply with the federal government. But it does give the general public less information about you, and you have less advantages in terms of being a charitable organization as well.
The leaders of the Sandbox Veterans have a personal background with finances and criminal activity that's important for donors to understand. Roger Locke is the organization's director. He incorporated the Sandbox Veterans of America in 2011. Locke personally filed for bankruptcy just 9 years earlier in 2002, and a judge in Illinois convicted him of retail theft in 1992. As for Adam Silvani, he also filed for bankruptcy in 2002, and court records say Silvani pleaded guilty to failing to support a dependent child in 2008, meaning he's a convicted felon. His ex-wife, Tiana Patti, says since his probation ended, he stopped paying child support once again this past year.
He hasn't paid child support in how long, and he says he's trying to help veterans. I don't understand why he would help veterans when he doesn't even help his own children.
As for the Attorney General's office investigation, state leaders say they won't leave out any questions that need asked.
We'll be looking for verification of information, just a wide variety of possible topics depending on what kind of information we get back. And we want to caution people not to feel pressured to give when somebody is being aggressive. That's not a good sign. Frankly, it's a red flag for us.
A spokesman with the Fort Wayne Police Department tells me officers responded to a complaint about 2 people selling Bibles door to door yesterday. He says it was the same 2 men that had been collecting money for the Sandbox Veterans. The Attorney General's office is unsure how long its investigation into the Sandbox Veterans will take, but will update you as soon as more information becomes available. While their financial records may not be public, we've been speaking with veterans organizations across Fort Wayne about the Sandbox Veterans. You can hear what they have to say as 15 Finds Out continues our series of investigations next week. Live in Studio 15, Adam Widener, News Channel 15.